Starting a business is extremely hard work. Now, I know there's a lot of people on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all these entrepreneurs telling you how easy it is to start a business and why this is the best time. And all you have to do is open your doors and all you have to do is sell a product. And some of that has some validity to it, but it's harder than you think. And I'm going to be real with you because I've had some success in business. I've had some failures in business. And I think it's very important that we be honest with each other about what it takes to succeed as an entrepreneur. I do believe that it's the best time to start a business. And I do believe that there's plenty of opportunity out there for you to start a lucrative side business or side hustle, if you want to call it that, or even a full-time career if you have a desire, an inclination, and the ability to do so. But there's some things that you need to be very, very aware of, because if you're not, you're going to fall prey to the Instagram gurus who tell you how easy it is, and you're going to end up spending a lot of time, money, energy, and resources on something that's destined to fail. So today I'm going to talk with you about 5 things that I've learned over the past 9 years in running the Order of Man organization and with my own registered investment advisory firm for financial planning prior to that. And then I'm going to talk with you about 5 solutions that you can consider when starting your own business. Now, guys, before I get into that, I do want to mention, speaking of businesses, one business that I'm a huge advocate for and friends of mine over at Montana Knife Company. Now, these guys make knives for hunting, for culinary. I believe they're coming out with a tactical line very soon. They're incredible knives, and the best thing about them is they are made in America. I love that. I support American-made businesses like Origin, like Sorinex, and also like Montana Knife Company. So if you're looking for a great knife and you want to have something that's going to work in the field if you're hunting, or work in the kitchen if you're cooking, then look no further than montanaknifecompany.com. And then when you check out, use the code Order of Man, all one word, Order of Man at checkout, because you're going to save some money when you do. And you're also letting them know that you heard about them here. So it supports them, it supports us, and you'll have a great knife in the process. Again, montanaknifecompany.com, use the code Order of Man. All right, guys, let's jump into this. Number 1, I'm going to talk about the pitfalls first. So the first pitfall, or maybe not even pitfall, just thing to be aware of that a lot of people don't talk about, is that it's going to take a lot of time and energy up front, and it becomes more efficient the longer that you do it. I want you to imagine for a second when the most inefficient time for a plane to take off, let's say a plane is departing LA and it's flying to New York. What is the most inefficient element of that flight? Well, it's the takeoff. It has the most fuel, which means it's the heaviest. It's trying to elevate, so it's fighting gravity and wind and other, natural forces that are at work against it. And it's inclining. So it's the most inefficient time. And it's trying to get up to a cruising altitude of, let's say, 35,000 feet. Once it gets to 35,000 feet, the plane levels off. They're not fighting friction as much. Fuel is being burned, so the plane becomes lighter. They get into jet streams, which help propel and push. There's a lot of efficiencies that happen after you get past the initial takeoff. Well, the same thing is true in your business. It's very inefficient. It's very challenging. It's very frustrating in a lot of ways. When I started Order of Man, now look, let me back up. Again, the Insta gurus will tell you, burn the boats, march into your boss's office and tell him to F off and burn the bridges and go out and do your own thing. Look, if you can do that, all the power to you. That's not how I did it. That's not how most of the guys that I work with and talk with have done it. The most successful people in the world don't do it like that. Okay, what they do is they leverage previous opportunities to create new opportunities for themselves, and they do it in an intelligent way. So an example of that might be somebody like Cam Hanes. Cam Hanes worked for, I don't exactly know, I think it was a utilities company in Oregon for decades. And now he started his own podcast. So you might look at it and say, well, he just came out of nowhere. No, he was working with the utilities organization for decades while he was building his movement, building his social media profile, building clout. And then when that got to a level, he was able to step away And I don't know his financials, but he was able to step away and probably create something that was even more lucrative than it was before. But don't for a second believe that that guy just burned the bridges, burned the boats, and told his former employer to F off and just took this, leap of faith. That's not really how it worked. You look at guys like even former military members who start podcasts, start organizations, start movements, start speaking careers. They're leveraging their previous employment in the military in this case, and they probably got a retirement, they've probably got a pension, they've probably got money coming in, maybe their spouse works. And so it looks like they're just taking this leap of faith, but they're not, guys. When I started Order of Man, I was working 2 hours in the morning, and then I would go to my quote unquote real job, financial planning. I would do that work, and then I'd come home, I'd see my wife, I'd spend time with my kids, I'd do dinner, and then I put the kids down, and then I would do another hour or two in the evening. This is what's required to start a business. You have to sacrifice, and it takes time to get it up and running. And you have to realize that it will. And also, I would suggest to you that it's going to be a season. It's not indefinite. Again, when I started Order of Man in 2015, I did that for about a year, maybe a little longer before I sold my financial planning practice and then did the Order of Man thing. Now, some people might say, well, there's your leap of faith. It is a leap of faith, but I had income coming in from the sale of my business. I didn't just shut off the income stream because I had kids and a wife and responsibilities. Okay, I'll say it as bluntly as I can. We're not going to be dumb about this, even though the instant people will tell you to. Be smart about it, okay? It takes more time and energy than you think. Realize it's a season. Communicate with the people, your wife, your kids, whoever might be affected by the season you're in, and get after it. All right, number 2, additional costs continue to accrue. I'm noticing this now. As our organization and our movement grows, there's new technology, there's new resources, there's new social media things, and all these other companies want a little piece of the pie, your pie. I'm not saying it's bad or it's wrong. I'm willing to invest in my business because it's an investment, which means that I have the anticipation of a return. So I'm okay with that. But you also need to know that things add up. Things get expensive. All right, there's new technology. We use social media. We use different platforms to administer. We have some back-end programs. We have email stuff that we're using. We use ConvertKit that I pay for. There's costs associated with it. And now there's costs associated with people having people manage it because I can't do everything that needs to be done on my own. And so I have to bring other people in who are experts in these departments so that I can pay them to do a good job in those areas. So costs accrue. And you need to be very aware of that. You can run something very streamlined, very minimal as far as investment goes for only a period of time. But if you want to grow it, there's additional cost, additional sacrifice that needs to be made. And again, I'm going to get into solutions here in a minute, but I want you to understand there's additional costs associated with this. I'm not trying to dissuade you from starting a business. I'm just trying to be honest with you because all these other quote unquote influencers are not being honest with you about what it takes. They're lying to you. They're telling you it's easy. They're telling you all you need to do is start a thing that you're excited about, and then, all of your wildest dreams will come true. Well, they won't. You'll probably be miserable for a time, or you'll have seasons of being miserable. Is how it goes. So I'm going to be honest with you about it. Number 3 is that you're going to make mistakes along the way. Right? You might feel really good about your movement or your business or your service or your offering, and everything's going well and things are wonderful, and then all of a sudden you do something dumb. Maybe not even dumb, maybe ignorant, and there's a difference. Dumb is doing something you know you shouldn't do. Ignorance is doing something you didn't know you shouldn't do. So you're going to have a lot of ignorance about your business, about sales, about marketing, about hiring people, things that you would never even consider. I'll give you a couple of examples. My first book, Sovereignty, The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men, the distributor went out of business, straight up just bankruptcy, went out of business. And I lost 3/4 of revenue that had not been paid to me because that business bellied up. That was expensive. Now, it worked out in the long run because I took my lumps, I took my hits, I lost some money, and I made a better decision moving forward and now have rights to my own book for distribution, which is exactly where I wanted to be in the first place. But that's what happened. And I didn't know that that could happen. I didn't anticipate that happening. I wasn't aware of that happening. And so I got hit with it. I've also done other things where I've bought thousands of dollars worth of merchandise that I couldn't sell. I got hit with a copyright. I should say it this way. I almost got hit with a copyright infringement. They sent a letter to me and asked me to not sell that because it was so close to their brand. And they were right. It was. That was ignorance. And so, thousands of dollars worth of merchandise that basically became expensive house cleaning rags. That stuff happens. And you have to be aware of it and you have to anticipate it and know that if it happens, it's not the end of the world. It's just, as my friend Pete Roberts with Origin says, tuition payments. And you have to pay the tuition. I don't want to pay tuition, but it's the cost of doing business. Number 4 is I'm trying to figure out how to communicate with all sorts of different people. I know what I'm driven by. I know what I'm inspired by. I know what speaks to me. I know how I like to hear things or how I want to move forward, but not everybody in my organization is exactly like me. Now, our vision and our values and our mission may be aligned, but they may be driven by something else. For example, I've got a couple of guys in Order Man and Iron Council that I've hired. Great men, believe in the mission wholeheartedly. I've never doubted that. They're very data-driven. I'm not a data-driven guy. I'm more of an intuitive. So if I see something that sounds good, feels right, I'm going to go for it. These guys are like, well, hold on, let's look at the data first. I'm like, nah, screw the data, just go for it. So there's some friction from time to time with me and these other men. They're not bad guys. It doesn't mean they don't believe in what we're doing. It just means that they see things differently. And I value that. Even though it's hard for me to wrap my head around and challenging because it has this friction at times, I value somebody who's aligned with my mission, but sees it in a different way because they're going to help shore up my weaknesses. But that means that I need to be able to expand and open up and broaden my horizon for my ability to communicate with individuals like this. I can't shut those people down. And I have a tendency of doing that because I think their way is not wrong, but not ideal because I'm only seeing it through my lens. You're going to work with good people. You're going to work with data-driven people. You're going to work with assholes at times. You're going to work with hard chargers. You're going to work with people who are driven by things that don't even appear relevant to you at all. And you have to be able to do it all. You have to be able to see it from their perspective. Again, I'm going to give you some solutions here shortly, but I want you to be aware that you're going to have to work with some people. I was talking with my daughter the other day and she was talking about somebody that she had met and she said, I don't really like that person. And I said, no, I understand. But we have to be aware that we're going to be around people that we don't always like. And so part of growing up and maturing is learning how to get along with all sorts of different types. So it's a challenge, and so does my daughter not be friendly with, the neighbor or does she has to navigate that a little bit. And it's my job as a father to help her, but it's also our job as entrepreneurs, business owners, employers to recognize, is this somebody that I just don't like and doesn't need to be part of our organization? Or is this somebody who just sees it differently and I need to work with them in order to propel our mission forward in a way that I could not do on my own? And then the last point I want to make before I start getting into solutions, because up to this point, we've done 10 minutes of griping and telling you how bad it is to start a business. And some of you are thinking, why would I ever do this? So I'm going to get into some solutions. But the last point I wanted to make is that there's a challenge in making sure that you're continually growing. I think I said it on another Friday Field Notes or an Ask Me Anything that you're either growing or you're dying. And I believe that's true. You're either moving forward and propelling and getting better, or you're falling behind and you're losing ground. There's plateaus in your business. There's even worse than plateaus. There's dips where things look like, oh man, this thing has run its course. I've gone through this over 9 years. This thing has run its course and maybe we're done here. And instead of throwing in the towel, you need to have the mental and testicular fortitude to say, you know what? I'm going to keep driving forward. I'm going to change a few things to ensure that we continue to drive forward, but I'm not going to plateau. I'm not going to dip. I'm not going to fall under it. I'm not going to fall behind. I'm going to look at new ways of growing. I'll get into solutions here in a minute, but new ways of growing so that I continue to improve and get better. Markets change. Consumers change, the landscapes change, technology changes, social media changes, buying habits change, presidents change, the economy changes, everything around you that even is uncontrollable changes, and you need to be able to ebb and flow, weave and bob as those outside factors change if you want to have success and continued growth in your business. So those are the problems. There's an infinite number of challenges, but those are the 5 that have really stood out to me. Again, what does it take to get up and running? Additional costs accruing, making mistakes along the way, having to learn how to communicate with all sorts of individuals, and then making sure that you're not plateauing or dipping. So what do we do about it? Well, number 1, again, what does it take to get up and running? Well, you have to recognize that you're in a season. That's it. You're just in a season. It takes time. And so as we talked about that analogy of the plane taking off, it's not efficient at first, but it will get there. And so we have to have a little faith, and you have to have a little strength and, again, fortitude to be able to recognize that, hey, this is going to be a crazy 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or a year, but you can have a plan and you can bear down when you need to bear down. Recognize that you're going to need to do it hard at first, and then it will get easier. I won't say easier. It will ease up your time constraints. But one thing I want you to be really aware of is and I said this earlier, you have to be able to communicate with the people who will be impacted by the decisions you're making. If you're starting a business and you're not communicating with your wife about how many hours you're going to put in the morning or the evening, she's going to get very frustrated very quickly. And not only do you have the business to grow, now you have a contentious wife, and that's going to be a problem for you. So you need to communicate with her. If you can't coach your son's team like you always have, or you can't go to all of your daughter's dance recitals like you have in the past, then you need to be able to clearly articulate why that's the case and when it will change. Don't assume that they're just going to come to the best conclusion about you being gone. Oh, you know what? Dad's gone because he's starting a business, and we're really proud of him. And I'm so grateful that he puts food on the table and puts a roof over our head and he works so hard for us. That'd be wonderful if our kids and our spouses always believe that, but they don't always believe that. A lot of the times it's, well, Dad's selfish and he's only doing this for him and he doesn't care about us anymore. And that's not the case, but it feels that way if we can't communicate it with the people that we love and care about. So make sure that you're communicating, and then also make sure you're honoring your word. If you say you're going to be done at Friday at 5 p.m., then you better be done at Friday at 5 p.m. If you say you're going to take all day Saturday to go play catch or go on a run or go on a hike with your kids, then you better be done on Saturday and go play catch or go on a hike or a run with your kids. Being in integrity that way will, give you the leniency. I don't like saying it like that, but will afford the opportunities to double down when you really need to get to work. Number 2, I said additional costs accrue. So the anecdote to that is planning ahead for costs. And maybe even consider not taking a bunch of money out of your business at first. Now, look, you might have aspirations to start a movement, start a business, start an organization that serves people. But also, if it's a business, you want to make money. Let's not pretend that isn't a money-making venture. And we can talk all about what money means, and we have in the past, and we should talk more about that. But what you need to know is that maybe you shouldn't be taking money out of the business and sucking all the blood out of your business so it can't thrive and grow. Give it a chance to build, to develop, to sustain itself. If you can't do that, then you're going to kill the thing before you even give it a chance to lift off and to grow and develop. Also, look for low capital ventures. You know, when I started doing merchandise, I was selling one piece at a time using drop shipping type stuff where somebody would come in and order a shirt and then it would be printed and then they'd send that shirt one at a time. And it wasn't more expensive for the consumer, but it was more expensive for me than it would be to order 500 shirts, for example. But I had to do that at first because that was a low cost way for me getting merchandise out there. And gradually I've taken it on. I hired a distribution center to take care of orders and supplies. I brought that in-house. There's things that I've done over the course of 9 years that have become more, again, efficient over time, but I'm looking for low-cost ways to sell merchandise and products and services and offerings. Even now, if I have a new shirt, I'll put it on a pre-order and I'll go promote it to our audience, and those individuals will buy those shirts before I even have to pay for them. And I could potentially have 50, 60, 70% of the capital covered in pre-sales before I even have to pay for the shirt or the hat or the merchandise that I have. This is just smart business. And of course, I inform my customers this is a pre-order. It's going to take a little longer than you might normally anticipate. And they're okay with that if I'm being honest with them about it. But you have to be creative in low capital environment so you can sell things without having this like $10,000 bill or this $100,000 bill that's going to be difficult for you to pay. Just be aware that if you're a vampire of your business and you suck all the blood out of your business because you want to buy the new car, take your wife on a vacation, or live this lavish lifestyle, well, you're killing the goose, right? You've got that story of the golden goose, and it lays golden eggs, and some people will just go ahead and take the goose and kill the goose. It's like, well, no, protect the goose, take the eggs as they come, but the goose is the value, not the egg itself. All right, number 3, I said that you're going to make mistakes along the way. I talked about book distribution. I talked about failure in merchandise. The antidote to that is working with coaches, following people, going to events, building entrepreneurial friendships, asking them powerful questions. What's been your biggest pitfall, or what lessons have you learned, or where did you misstep, and where did you mess up, and how expensive was your biggest mistake, and what did you learn from it? The more you can attend events and invest in yourself by hiring coaches, attending events, building entrepreneurial friendships, and then listening to people who are qualified to give the advice, the better off you're going to be, right? They've done that. If, for example, you're listening to this podcast, if I'm telling you, hey, be aware of, doing merchandise that's already been done, and then you're going to have $2,000, $10,000, $100,000 worth of inventory that you can't sell, I hope you listen to that so you don't have to do it yourself. The adage is smart people learn from their mistakes. Wise people learn from the mistakes of others. You have mentors, you have coaches, you have conferences, you have emails, you have podcasts, you have books, you have entrepreneurial friends. Befriend them, listen to them, invest in them, go to their conferences, read their emails, listen to their podcasts. They're telling you what to do. They're literally giving you a roadmap. Go to the library, go to Barnes & Noble, get on Amazon. I don't care. Consume that information and then apply it. So you're not learning the same dumb mistakes that those people made, that I've made in my career, and my $10,000 or whatever dollar expense or cost or lesson is going to cost you nothing. Learn from me. Don't learn from yourself. Number 4, I talked about learning to communicate with all types. The anecdote or the answer to that is that recognizing that all people are not like you. And just having a little bit of grace and understanding and realize that not everybody sees it the same way. I think it's very important that you find people who are aligned with your mission, aligned with your objectives, aligned with your goals. I have all sorts of guys in the Iron Council who will push and poke and prod and give ideas and present counter arguments to just about everything I share. But I know these guys are aligned with our mission, and so it doesn't bother me. In fact, I welcome it. I encourage it. I like it because it helps me see things from a perspective that I could not see on my own. And the other suggestion I would give to you here is that if you recognize that somebody has an aptitude for something, what you want to do in business is you want to get the right people in the right places. I've got a guy, Reese Carter. He believes in our mission. He believes in what we're doing. He's been in for years. He's been part of this and helping us grow. Him and I always don't always see things the same. He's very data driven. I'm very intuitive driven. And so he helps us in a very specific role inside of the organization because that's what he has an aptitude for. That's what he's good at. I've got Chris Gatchko who runs our events. Well, he used to run large events for hotels and other conferences and conference centers. And so this is an individual who knows how to plan logistically. I don't know how to do that. He's aligned with our goals. He's aligned with our mission. He believes in what we're doing. And therefore, I don't have any doubt about his motive. Even though we don't always see it perfectly, he's got the experience there. I've got another guy, Steve Baumgartner. He just started doing some more of our operations management. I'm not good at that stuff. Again, very intuitive. I love being front facing, talking with you guys, communicating, sharing ideas and concepts, and thinking about what the future holds. And he's very strategic in how we implement some of the vision that I've considered. We don't always see eye to eye. You know, when he says something, I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And he's like, what don't you get? But I know that he's aligned with what we're doing. I believe that he's aligned with that. And I know that he has a different skill set than me, and I'm very happy to have him aboard. I'm working on getting the right people in the right places based on their aptitude, based on their skills, based on their communication styles. And that has proven to be very valuable to the business, the organization, even though it's hard and confronting and challenging at times. And the last point here, guys, is I talked about continued growth. Here's what I've realized, and here I think is part of the solution, is understanding that, or at least knowing that what got you here to this point may not necessarily get you to that point. So you might hit a certain level of revenue and then cap off. Okay, well, that's it. That's all. If you keep doing things the way you've done them, you're just going to stay there. And you might be comfortable with that. And if that's the case, okay. But if you want to take it to the next level, then you have to do something different. And you have to be open to something different. So you have to think outside the box. You have to my previous point, hire coaches, mentors, other people, bringing people in who can do certain things that you can't do as well on your own, and invest in that. And again, it's an investment. You're not just throwing money at the thing. You're investing in people. You're investing in systems. You're investing in processes. And the difference between just throwing money at it and investing is that an investment has an anticipation of a return. If you invest $1 into a thing, then I want $10 back or $100 or whatever it might be. But I'm investing in people. I'm investing in systems. I'm investing in technology because I believe it will yield a return for us. And you know, that when I've incorporated that into my business, it's paid off. It's always paid off. When I bring the right people in, when I bring in new technology, when I think outside of the box, when I think a little bit differently, and do it that way. The last thing I would say is something that I call distinctive emulation. So what you can do is you can look at what other people are doing. Like there's other people in the podcasting space, for example, Larry Hagner with That Edge, Connor Beaton, Man Talks, Brett McKay, Art of Manliness, Jordan Peterson podcast, Joe Rogan podcast, Modern Wisdom podcast with Chris Williamson, Keep Hammering Collective with Cameron Haynes. Like there's other people doing things that are similar to us. I can look at what those individuals are doing and I can emulate them. Notice I didn't say copy, because if I try to do what Cam or Chris or Joe or any of these other people are doing, it's going to come across as disingenuous, because it is. Those guys aren't me and I'm not them. And this is why I call it distinctive emulation, because I'm going to run whatever they're doing through my own filter, through my own mechanism, through my own delivery. So we're going to emulate what other people are doing, but we're going to do it in our own way with our own spin and our own flair and our own personality. And then it becomes authentic. Then it becomes genuine. Then people could begin to see that, hey, this is a good idea, but man, I could see that this is something Ryan is really behind. He's not just copying other people. Do it your own way. Think about what other people are doing that is successful and do it in your own flavor. I hope that helps you. Guys, I'm not trying to make it harder for you. I'm not trying to tell you not to start businesses. In fact, I want you to start businesses. I think you starting an organization, a movement, a business, a product, a service, an offering is the path forward, not only for yourself, but for your community, for your family, for this country. I want you to start businesses. I just want to be realistic about what it takes, because the last thing I'd want is for you to start a business because some schmo on Instagram told you how easy it was and they lied to you, and you started a business and you wasted a bunch of time, money, energy in starting the business, and then you failed because you didn't even give yourself a chance to do it right because you weren't told the truth. The truth is, starting a business is rough, and I have to ask you, are you up for it? Are you up to the task? If you are, I believe in you. I believe that you can do it. But if you're being honest and the answer is no, then don't start a business. Pour into your current business. Pour into your current career. Pour into the things that you're doing right now and make that the best you can possibly be. And if that changes in the future, then we can look at starting entrepreneurship or something like that. But for now, you need to know it's rough. There are solutions. There is a path forward, but it takes a lot of fortitude, grit, resiliency, investment, heartache, heartbreak. That's what entrepreneurship requires. And I think you can do it. But let's not lie to ourselves and tell ourselves it's easier than it is. That just sets us up for failure. All right, guys. If you have any other thoughts, lessons learned, things that have been hard for you, ways that you've overcome them, please let us know. This is a community. Order of Man. And inevitably, when I wear this hat, I always have people tell me that in, I don't know what dialect, but in Africa, OOM means uncle, which I kind of like. I didn't know that when I did this hat, but I kind of like that. Uncle. All right, guys. I hope that served you. If you want this hat, by the way, you can check it out at store.orderofman.com. Again, check out montanaknifecompany.com. Use the code orderofman. And then we're going to be doing a lot more emailing, getting our information to you guys that way. So if you're interested in hearing more about some insights that I had to share, updates on podcasts, and updates on new merchandise, new events, things like that, you can go to orderofman.com and get signed up for our email. All right, guys, I'll be back next week. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.